I guess in a way, that's what the arts are meant to do for us, right? They're meant to make us think about these things, make us think about what we find valuable and meaningful in our lives, and to recognize that. But then also, what is it that we want to do? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Random Walk with Elaine. Today I am in Pittsburgh and came up here for the weekend to see a couple of the art museums and things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Walking in this direction. Now I have the sun behind me, so there's going to be some glare and stuff, but that's because it's still kind of warm out and facing the sun was just too much. So apologize for the glare. But anyway, yesterday was a lot of fun. I went to the Andy Warhol Museum here in Pittsburgh, and I did not know that there was a 7-story building devoted to all of his life's work. Most people, when they think of Andy Warhol, they think of the soup cans or the Maryland artwork. But he actually did a lot of art in different mediums throughout his entire career. And I learned this at the museum, which was really, really cool. And it filled the entire building. The people at the staff at the museum were like, "This is a great time to be here." They said, "We have a lot of our displays out in the open right now." They have also an archive of his time capsules that he kept, which are boxes of stuff stuff that he gathered throughout the years. So from a museum curation standpoint, I found that super interesting. But in addition to all of the screen printing and portraits and print art and things like that, were a lot of his films on display as well. And one of them that struck me was he did these screen tests with people. Some were celebrities. And an interesting one I watched was the screen test of the artist Salvador Dali. And a screen test was just a person sitting in a room with a bright light on them, just staring at the camera for minutes on end. So the reason I found the Salvador Dali one really interesting was because it was about 4 minutes long. And at the very beginning, he starts out with this extreme expression on his face, right? Really intense, wide eyes, staring at the camera. And what I kind of noticed was it felt very much like a performance, like he was trying to hold a pose and was performing. And just watching, I was like, how long can he keep this up for? Because I know this film is 4 minutes long. He was trying to not blink and hold that very intense look. And about halfway through, I could see that all of a sudden the performance started to melt away and the human side started to break through. And you could see his eyes start to soften and the performance start to go away. And then I noticed he started blinking because I was like, how long is this humanly possible for? And then the whole expression kind of changed because it was no longer, this artist that was trying to perform in front of a camera. It was just a person sitting there in front of the camera. So it was really interesting to me to kind of see that human side break through. And it made me art resonates with people in a different way. So this piece made me think of how often do we as people perform, especially I notice this for people in positions of leadership. How often are they performing in a way or doing something to try and present a certain way to an audience? And I think as people, we pick up on that. I can always tell when I I'm in a room with other people who are leaders, I can always tell like if they're kind of putting on a mask and putting on a performance, as it were. And I can also tell when people are actually like letting their true selves show through and are being authentic, which is always risky to do, but is much more worth it compared to those that are performing. Maybe they're performing because it's like a safer thing to do, or they have their guard up for some reason. Anyway, it just made me really be aware of that. Just watching this 4-minute Salvador Dali staring into the camera. I also saw another one where it was just a regular person, like it was titled A Boy. So it was just what I assumed to be like a regular everyday person doing the same kind of screen test. And when he was doing his screen test, he was not performing. You could tell right off the bat, he was just like a normal person looking at the camera. And you could kind of see his true self show through, like right away. It was really, really interesting. So that's what I got out of this whole one of the more notable moments being at the museum. When I was there, I picked up a book from the bookstore, from the museum shop, because I have this whole addiction to picking up interesting books, and if I see one that's interesting, I've learned to pick it up right away, or else I'll never get that. I'll never get that book again because I will completely forget. So the book that I got at the gift shop was called, I have to read it, Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us. And I've already read like the first 2 chapters right away. That's how super interesting it was. And this book talked about how when we experience the arts, like music or paintings or whatever, artistic, medium that we're looking at, that it actually rewires our brains in a way. And that experience kind of creates those memories. So it was really interesting in that they were like, it is literally rewiring your brain. And they said, for example, people who are reading a good book, that are getting like engrossed in the story, that's why it's super easy to startle somebody reading a book, because they are just so engrossed in it, and their focus, their brain is actually like making all those wiring connections because of how into the story they are of the book they are reading. And it also talked about how sights and sounds and images can spark memories for that reason, because of those wiring connections that still exist. So this brings me to the second museum, the museum I visited today, which was the Heinz History Museum, and all about the ketchup guy. Yeah, for sure. He was a senator, the ketchup guy, but they had a lot of like really interesting stuff throughout the museum, like Pittsburgh history and things like that. And on the 4th floor, they had everything about Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers, because he's also from the area. He's from actually area close by Latrobe, Pennsylvania, but worked here in Pittsburgh. So anyway, just actually like seeing the actual like set pieces and seeing all of the puppets and everything there. And they had, of course, short videos playing of his episodes. All of those like sights and sounds like immediately brought me back, because my brother and I like grew up on PBS. We grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and so just seeing those things, seeing like the actual things, and hearing it just like brought all these memories back, and just like remembering the favorite episodes and everything. Brought it all back. And so it made me immediately think of this book that I'm now reading about, Art and the Brain. I was like, oh, this is exactly what they were talking about. So yeah, it was super fun to kind of relive those memories and everything. Also a little sad because because of what's going on with PBS right now. I hope there's a path forward. I hope there's a way it can survive, and it's just like a very emotional connection for me. Like I said, that whole memory of like growing up with it and how much value I got out of it. Like I wouldn't want future generations of kids to not have that. So yeah, it brought back happy memories, but also like was a little sad in a way as well. So I guess in a way, that's what the arts are meant to do for us, right? They're meant to make us think about these things, make us think about what we find valuable and meaningful in our lives, and to recognize that, but then also what is it that we want to do. And just thinking about Mr. Rogers, I'm like, talk about an authentic person, right? I mean, this was a person that devoted his whole life to helping children navigate the world and everything. And so it kind of brought the whole topic I was thinking about full circle. So it made me realize, one of my goals in my work and whatever I do is to always be that authentic person to whatever I create and put out in the world, have it be that authentic work, no matter if it's in my professional life or outside of my creative life, like whatever it is, to just always be doing those things that are authentic. And the Andy Warhol piece as well made me realize the volume of work that somebody creates, that everybody only thinks of like a super small portion of that person's work, but they actually did a lot to put together. They walked a very long path and created a lot of work to put out there in the world, and everybody resonates with a certain piece of it, a fraction of it, if you will. So that was another lesson for me to not be filtering, not be holding back, to just do things and create things, because they never know what people will resonate with, and to just create it and put it out there in the world. And I know I've said that like it's like a common theme in all of these videos, but it really is. So anyway, this is how I spent my weekend. I spent my weekend with Andy Warhol and Mr. Rogers, and it turned into this whole exploration of authenticity and public broadcasting, and supporting growth of kids in their creative journey too. So that's why this is called a random walk, because it's like the total random thoughts that I have in these experiences. But I enjoy sharing them with you, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. So with that, I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for joining me on this super interesting walk along the river here in Pittsburgh, and I'll see you on the next random walk.